Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video. And today we're going to be doing another edition of Getting to Know a DC Character. Today we're going to be switching things up. We're not going to be talking about a hero. No. Today we're going to be taking a step into the dark side. We're going to be talking about a villain, a fiend, a rogue. We're going to be talking about one of Batman's greatest adversaries, none other than the Riddler. So, as it would go with all my getting to knows, we're going to be doing a brief history on the character, powers and abilities, as well as a reading list for you to get into the character if you so choose to do so. Riddler. Real name, Edward Nygma. We'll just call him Eddie for short. Eddie was really good at puzzles when he was younger. Puzzles and crosswords and solving problems. He was an exceptionally gifted individual, and he loved to challenge himself, to make himself better when it came down to his intellect. And he could only do that through these various different problems and puzzles and riddles. But eventually, as he became an adult, they didn't challenge him so much. And the true origin of how he becomes the Riddler changes from continuity to continuity, right? It's been revamped since the original Silver Age or Golden Age stuff. It's been revamped since the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's been revamped since the New 52. But everything kind of lines up to one thing, is that he sees Batman, and he sees Batman as the ultimate Riddler, as the ultimate challenge for him to take on, right? Yeah, getting all this money is great, and the women and the power and everything that comes from being a successful criminal mastermind, but really he wants to test the Batman. And he does so by committing various different crimes and leaving clues for Batman to follow. It's just one of his Achilles heels. He has a compulsion to always leave clues behind. And for a time, Batman and him did that tango. They kind of went back and forth to really test each other's wits. I mean, I'm sure Batman wasn't keen on the game, but Riddler was. But eventually, Riddler wanted to step up his game. He really wanted to crack into that noggin of Batman. He wanted to figure out exactly who is behind the mask. So, he initiates a plan using several of Batman's rogue gallery and his newest rogue, Hush. And he goes out there and he sets up this plan to find out who Batman truly is. And by all rights, the Riddler does. He successfully finds out who Batman really is. But in his absolute insanity and compulsions, why would he tell anyone? As Batman always says, the greatest riddle of it all means nothing and everyone knows the answer to it. So the Riddler keeps his mouth shut, never tells the world who Bruce Wayne is. But he did have a problem, and that was Hush. See, he kind of manipulated Hush, and Hush wasn't too happy with that, so he beat Riddler to a pulp, to the fact that he was even put into a coma. And when he came out, well, Riddler was actually kind of a good guy. He forgot who he was, and he became a detective, helped out Batman a couple times. Well, Dick Grayson Batman, and even went on to help out the Gotham City Sirens every once in a while, which are Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. But, you know, being good isn't his style. And eventually Riddler goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs again and becomes evil yet again. And even more dangerous and cunning than he was beforehand. That's the basic history of Edward Nygma. Like many villains, he goes through various different transformation and metamorphoses, but his end goal is the same, and his overall interactions with the main protagonists are the same. So let's get into powers and abilities. Edward Nygma is a regular, good old-fashioned human like you and I. He's not even particularly skilled as a fighter. I mean, I'm sure he can hold himself in a little bit of a brawl, but he's a bit of a coward when it comes down to that. He can use various different weapons, such as guns and knives and all that stuff. And we do see in some stories, like the War of the Joker and Riddles, that he can hold his own in some fights. But on a whole, Riddler's power doesn't come from his strength and his skill, but rather his intellect, his wisdom, and his ferociousness. He is one of the smartest people in the DC universe, in just basic thinking and processing. Yeah, he can't create a black hole, but he knows what to do with it. right? That's how I always thought of the Riddler. He's incredibly smart, cunning, and he lays out these fantastic plans. Not just that, he's ferocious to no end. I mean, he has no qualms with killing people and taking them out. It's just, that's who the Riddler is. He's more dangerous than some other villains because, yeah, you have the unpredictability of the Joker, but the thing is Riddler's got his, well, he's crazy, but he's got more of his sanity. Like, he lays out these plans. The unpredictability of the Joker is just what it is, but Riddler knows what he's doing, and that's what makes him incredibly dangerous. If Riddler had any weakness at all, it would just be his ego, which is a weakness a lot of people, but it gets him in trouble a lot, right? He's too busy laying down hints and clues for Batman that it screws him off at the end. It's because he loves the game and he loves the thrill of the hunt and trying to outsmart the Dark Knight. And again, at the end of the day, that's what bites him in the butt. But that's a basic general description of his powers and abilities. Again, he's not a metahuman and he doesn't have any particular physical feats, but intellect-wise, he's up there. Let's talk about a reading order, right? If you want to get into the Riddler, it's a little bit different than getting into, say, Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman, because he doesn't have his own comic series. He is an adversary of Batman. So I decided that although Riddler shows up in hundreds of Batman stories, to limit it down to like 6 or 7 for you guys to eat, right? Because you want to get into the villain, you don't want every single story that the villain's in. And after you read these, if you decide, Riddler's a shit, then you can go in and read some more. But the best place to start for me is Batman Hush. Now, Batman Hush is a great starting point for any Batman fan, for so many reasons. I'll talk about that later. But Riddler is the ultimately plays an incredibly big role in this, right? Much bigger role than you would expect. And it's really where we see the first elevation of Riddler from secondary Batman villain to critical threat, right? I think this is because in recent years Riddler has been portrayed as one of Batman's greatest adversaries. That's not always the case. It wasn't until Hush that he started to get that profile, for lack of a better term. Next, I recommend Batman 4 of a Kind. Relatively easy graphic novel to get your hands on. A bit dated because it came out in the 80s or early 90s, but it tells you the origins, the post-crisis, pre-New 52 origins for Man-Bat, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and Riddler. All of which the origins have changed in some way, shape, or form, but it's a good foray into getting to know these characters, but not only that, getting to know the Riddler, and Riddler's story is pretty decent. I do recommend reading Gotham City Sirens Union. We get to see, although it's about the girls, we get to see Riddler play the role as detective, and I think it's important to see the Riddler in this role because you get to see the evolution of the character. So yeah, probably the weakest chain of stories to recommend, but still, I enjoyed it. And if you don't get anything out of it for the Riddler, you still get something out of it for the Sirens. Next we get Batman Zero Year. So this is collected in Volume 5 and 6 of the New 52. Oh no, 4 or 5, sorry. And basically Volume 4 is more about the Red Hood gang, but Riddler kind of lays his seeds for his master plan in this. And then in Volume 5, Dark City, this is where we see Riddler as deadliest. This is another origin for the Riddler, too. But you get to see some really cool stuff come out of this with the Riddler. And it's, again, another elevation of game. And lastly, on the list of Riddler stuff to get, I recommend getting Batman War of the Joker and the Riddles. This takes place in the second year of Batman's career, shortly after Zero Year, and is basically a battle between Joker and Riddler, but there's a lot of intricacies to it, and again, you see Riddler at his most ruthlessness, right? You see a very dangerous kind of person. So, with that said, that's a basic gist of what you should pick up if you want to get the Riddler. Again, small reading selection. I don't want to overwhelm you because where Riddler is a villain, he's not the star of the show, so he doesn't show up quite as much as, say, a main character would. But those are still some fun stories that the Riddler has shown up with. With that said, the next getting to know character, if you want to follow me on Instagram, or Twitter. Links are down below. I will be posting what the selections will be, and you can vote on them if you choose to do so. In addition to that, if you want to support my channel, Patreon, down below for your boy. Anything you support, anything you give to the channel to support it would be very much welcome, but it's not necessary. I will put out content regardless. However, what you do to support the channel will help me bring in better content, maybe better equipment, whatever. So, with that said, again, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and this is Andrew saying peace out for now.